Right. So from what I heard from Dinesh was that this is going to be sort of a four-part uh, series once every month, and we are going to be discussing, opening wedge, closing wedge, etc., in more detail. So in my talk right now, I'm not talking exactly about how you plan for a high tibial osteotomy, open wedge or closed wedge in detail, for the simple reason that it's going to be covered better. I just want to give a sort of overview in terms of understanding deformity and the sort of principles of deformity correction in relation to a high tibial osteotomy. So we need to look at two terms. One is alignment and orientation. So alignment means what is the relationship of the center of the head of the femur to the center of the knee to the center of the ankle. Normally, these are collinear. They are both, all three, they are in the same straight line. And the second thing is joint orientation. And joint orientation refers to the orientation of the joint line relative to the ground. And for the knee arthritis, the most important thing is, of course, the knee joint orientation, which generally, even in patients who have significant varus, tends to be parallel to the ground. So the first question that we ask, kind of, is there a deformity? Is there a problem? And you notice that all the pictures which Shiva showed were patients looked at from a distance, where even clinically you can appreciate the varus. The same thing has to be done in terms of planning with a full length X-ray. Today, I think full length X-rays are available everywhere relatively easily. So that is something that should be done. So when you have the commonly used terms are varus and valgus. When we talk of deformity sort of process or process of thinking about a deformity, we say a varus, that is a medial or a lateral displacement of the mechanical axis. So the mechanical axis of the limb is from the center of the head to the center of the ankle. Where does it lie in relation to the center of the knee? Is it medial? Then that's a medial mechanical axis deviation, or is it lateral? When it's a lateral mechanical axis deviation or a valgus deformity. Normally, this passes through the center plus or minus 4 mm on either side. That is there. Another study by Paley shows around 8 mm. So up to 8 mm onto the medial side would be considered as a normal mechanical axis deviation. Now, these are all, 3 patients have varus. But the question is it in the femur? Is it in the tibia? Is it in both? Is there an element of soft tissue laxity? Is it in the metaphysis, as was pointed out in terms of the tibia vara? Is it in the diaphysis? A malunited fracture of the femur can also give you an overall varus alignment, and that doesn't need to be treated by an HTO necessarily. And is it a single locus or multiple? So we then come down from mechanical axis of the limb to studying the mechanical axis of the bone, the individual bone, the femur as well as the tibia. And that also gives us the joint orientation line of that particular bone. So if you draw the axis of the tibia, which is center of the tibia, the knee joint to the center of the ankle below, and measure that in relation to the joint line of the tibia, which is the most sort of concave parts of the medial and the lateral condyle, then you will get something known as the MPTA, the medial proximal tibial angle, which is normally 87 plus or minus 2.5. So if it's more than 90, then it is a valgus deformity. And if it is less than 85, then you would say it's a varus deformity of the proximal tibia. Now we're not talking about the entire limb. So there are other angles which are not directly relevant to a high tibial osteotomy, but they are also important, because even an abnormal LPFA, or the lateral proximal femoral angle. So this is the orientation of the hip joint line, which is from the center of the tip of the center of the head to the tip of the trochanter, in relation to the mechanical axis of the femur or the mechanical axis of the limb. So the LPFA normally is around 90 degrees. The LDFA, or the lateral distal femoral angle, is the angle for the distal femur. So this is normally, again, 87. These are complementary. The tibial and the femoral angles are complementary. The tibia was on the medial side. The femur is on the lateral side. And this LDFA is preceded by lowercase m, which signifies that this is a mechanical LDFA, to differentiate it from an anatomic, which is a ALDFA. So this is normally 88 degrees. Anything more than 90 would be counted as abnormal, right? So MPTA we already talked about, but you also have to look at the JLCA, or the joint line convergence angle. If you take the joint line of the femur, that is the most convex parts of the femoral condyle, and the most concave parts of the tibial condyle, you get two joint lines. Normally, these are parallel to each other, or at the most up to about 2 degrees of deformity is acceptable. More than that is abnormal JLCA. So the JLCA signifies a soft tissue component to the deformity. So if you reduce the lower limb bones to stick figures, you will find that all of these joint lines, that is the proximal femur, the distal femur, the proximal tibia, and the distal tibia, all of these joint lines are normally parallel to the ground. And therefore, any corrective surgery that is done, that is a factor also which needs to be corrected, which needs to be taken into account. Now, once we decided that there is varus or valgus, then we need to come to the source of the deformity. That is, which bone is the deformity? Is it in the femur, tibia? So here is an apparent varus deformity. Here the LDFA is 94, which is more than normal. I said 90, and the MPTA is 87. So this is a patient who's got only distal femoral varus, and this patient would be better served by having a femoral osteotomy, and not the classical standard teaching that valgus osteotomy has to be done in the tibia and varus osteotomy has to be done in the femur. You have to evaluate each deformity by these principles of deformity correction, and then decide what you're going to correct. Similar looking medial mechanical axis deviation. Here the LDFA is normal, 87, and the MPTA is 82, less than 85. That means here the deformity is in the tibia. And though these are line drawings, I'm using line drawings just to make it sort of clearer. But these are cases which all of us, if you look at your full length X-rays, get very sort of on a routine manner. More often than, or rather, quite often, we get a combined femoral as well as a tibial deformity. A LDFA of 94 and an MPTA of 82. Now this one, if you try to overcorrect the tibial you try to overcorrect for the femoral deformity. If you try to overcorrect in the tibia, one, you will get an extremely abnormal MPTA. Second, you will get a joint line which is oblique. And as I said, that as part of the concept of deformity correction, you not only have to restore the angles, you also have to restore the joint orientation. When this significant varus in the femur and tibia goes on for long enough, the lateral structures will get stretched and you will have a JLCA which is more than 2. So that is something again that you need to, that comes into the planning. You will hear about it more when we talk about HDOs and stuff in upcoming webinars. How do we factor in this soft tissue? Do we correct that or do we just factor it in into the amount of correction, etc. So the joint orientation, as I said, in the tibia, it doesn't matter whether you're doing mechanical axis or anatomic axis, because essentially those two are parallel to each other. Only thing is the anatomic axis is about 5 millimeters medial. For practical purposes, they are the same. In case of the femur, the anatomic axis is mid-diaphyseal line of the shaft of the femur, which goes from the piriformis to just medial to the femoral notch. And this is different from the mechanical axis, which is center of head to the center of the knee. And normally we say there is an angle of somewhere between 5 to 9 degrees, an average of 7 degrees between the anatomic and mechanical axis. So if you talk of a joint line over here, and if you talk of, we said that mechanical LDFA is 88. So if we're talking of anatomic, then it would be 81. So that is something that you need to keep in mind whenever we are doing the planning. Now, all of this stuff that I have talked about doesn't need to be memorized. This kind of card or graphic is available very easily on Google. You can just download one and keep it for reference. Once you use these numbers 3-4 times, they will all become kind of, you will know them almost by heart. Whether you're doing a mechanical or whether you're doing an anatomic. The only major difference is the LDFA, which is 88, anatomic LDFA is 81, MPTA is 85 in both, LDTA is 89. So this is, all these angles are kind of approaching 90 degrees, which basically tells you that the joint lines are parallel to the mechanical axis. Now look at this guy. They all are varus, but this is a patient who has a normal LDFA, an abnormal MPTA, and the JLCA is normal. So this is a patient who will do well with just a tibial osteotomy, whether you do open wedge, whether you do a closed wedge. There is one more thing which I have not included, but I think Milind will, because that's a little bit of an advanced thing, where the angle or the relationship between the two condyles. Milind will speak about that whenever he speaks of a TC view, and that is something that we need to keep in mind. So this patient would benefit with a simple high tibial osteotomy, whether open wedge, closed wedge, or with a fixator, either. Now, a patient like this with an abnormal LDFA and an abnormal MPTA will not necessarily benefit from only an HTO. They do benefit, but the long-term results may be a little suspect. So in this, with the knowledge that we have now, for this kind of a patient, I would consider a double osteotomy. This is not varus, this is valgus, but valgus also in younger patients give rise to a cosmetic deformity. In older patients, it gives rise to osteoarthritis. So you can notice that this patient has got valgus, but the valgus is from the femur, because 76 should be normally 88, but there is also about 5 degrees of valgus from the proximal tibia. So when it comes to correcting this patient, we would give thought to even a tibial correction, though it seems like something excessive, but there are situations where we will not try to overcorrect one or the other. Similarly, abnormal LDFA, abnormal MPTA, huge JLCA, 8 degrees. So when you will see the calculations in later webinars, there will be a talk. I mean, there will be a lot of discussion on this. What do we do to that soft tissue component? Do we include that in the correction? Do we not include that? But only if you do a full length X-ray and realize exactly what are the angles, then you can sit and think about, okay, what are we to do about that? The final part is, so we decided there is a deformity in the bone. We decided, okay, it's in the femur or in the tibia or both, whatever it is. And now you have to find out what we call the cora, or the place where you want to do the osteotomy. center of rotation for angulation. So one thing you must remember is to draw a particular line. You can either extend a line between 2 points, or you take a line at a particular point from it, you can extend a line at a given angle. So if I tell you on this, from here, you draw another line at 90 degrees, that line would extend like that. So a line can be drawn by 2 points or by a line, a point, and a given angle. So here is the simplest issue of a Cora, where you draw the mid-axial line for the tibia, you draw the mid-axial line for the distal tibia. Both these intersect at a point, which is called the Cora, and the angle, acute angle between the two is called the magnitude. Now, if you do your osteotomy here and put in a nail into this, this deformity is going to be corrected. So that's the importance of doing the Cora. Here, because the Cora comes at the obvious deformity, it doesn't take, too much knowledge or experience to realize that, yes, the osteotomy has to be done there. But when you come to the proximal tibia, for example, there you need to be a little more careful, because technically your Cora is here. You will be doing the osteotomy a little lower down, or you do an open wedge like we are doing. So this term you will hear again and again is that the Cora comes very, very high in the proximal tibia, almost at the level of the fibula, tip of the fibula. So here, the goal of surgery is to restore the mechanical axis of the limb straight. So you can just extend the femur. In this case, the femur is normal. So the red line is the proximal axis, is an extension of the femoral axis. The blue line is the tibial axis, and both of them meet at the Cora. So if you correct this by an angle of 37 degrees, you will get a correction of your deformity. Similarly, for the distal femur, the tibia is normal. You are extending the tibial axis. There is a particular way of drawing the mechanical axis of the femur. You can also do the same thing with anatomic axis planning. And you will find that the Cora for this valgus deformity comes pretty distal in the femur. So that will then dictate where and how your osteotomy is done, right? Example sort of problem case, this is a limb which looks straight. So one could well say, oh, there's no deformity, but this girl came with pain in the knee. And in childhood, she had valgus of the tibia. And following the usual maxim that varus osteotomy should be done in the femur, she received a varus osteotomy in the femur. What it led to is an oblique joint line. And the patient, despite a limb which looks kind of straight, she came with pain because of her oblique joint line. Also, this mechanical axis is a little still in varus, meaning excessive correction was done. So probably both of these things contribute to her pain. But if you follow the principles of planning, you will find that there is a proximal axis, there is a distal axis. The yellow one is the proximal axis for the tibia, and the red one is the distal axis for the tibia again. So there is a varus deformity here and a valgus deformity in the tibia. So we corrected that using a nail for the femur and a fixator for the tibia. So now the limb doesn't look terribly straighter, but the bone is straight. More importantly, look at the joint line. It is now parallel to the ground. So her symptoms are fine and she has no problem. So in conclusion, we need to look at all of these things, even if it's a so-called simple HTO that we are doing, where we talk about the mechanical axis of the bone, the mechanical axis of the limb, the joint orientation, especially of the knee, but also of the hip and the ankle, which bone we are going to tackle, what are we going to do about the soft tissue component? Use the principle of proximal and distal axes to find out the cora and confirm that the cora is in the region where we are going to do the osteotomy, so that you can decide where in the bone you are going to do the osteotomy. Thank you.